Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Zero Dark 30, and this movie is directed by Catherine Bigelow, and I thought this movie was pretty good. I don't think it's as good as The Hurt Locker, but I still thought it was very good, and what I liked about it was the story and the perspective that we got it from, and normally in a story like this, you would just get a soldier's perspective on the whole thing, or someone else who is directly involved with the action, as in, like, this could be an action movie. It kind of is. There's action sequences in it, but I wouldn't call it an action movie. There's like two, maybe three. The rest of the movie is just dialogue and everyone trying to get information about Osama bin Laden and trying to track him down, and because of 9/11, and you probably know where the story's going to go from there. And it starts out in 2003 and just opens on these random different events that are very important that progress the story along. And one thing that kind of bugged me a little bit about this movie was that this movie takes place in different years as it goes along. And in the first half, it starts out with 2003, then it goes to 2005 at one point, and then it goes to 2008, and then we get to 2009, then 2010, and then 2011, I think. And it's not that I have an issue with the movie taking place in those separate time periods. Is that my problem is that how it's structured and how much time is given to each time period, because we get about a half hour or so with 2003 in that era, in that time period, maybe a little bit less, maybe closer to 20 minutes. But then we go to 2005 and we're there for a while, and then all of a sudden we're in 2008, and it kind of just feels like it's just going really quickly, and I don't really have much time to take in like the period that it's set in, and it just didn't feel as though it gave enough time for specific scenes to breathe and for me to feel as though I was part of this movie's world. It was just kind of a weird choice, and compared to the rest of the movie, once we get to the second half of the movie, it pretty much just stays in 2010 for the whole movie, or at least most of it. I felt as though that second half was much better and I was more into it, because it didn't feel as though it was like moving kind of fast and really quickly. It allowed me to take in everything, and I was fine with the slower pace of it. And in the first half, it's kind of fast-paced-ish, and I kind of criticized the movie for doing that, because while I'm not against a quick pace to a movie, I feel as though for this film in particular, I feel as though if it allowed everything to breathe, then I would have been okay with it. And this movie's already 2.5 hours long, so I can understand the decision to wanting to not make it feel as though everything is dragged out. But I just personally would have liked to slow down a bit. Like, you could have extended it a little bit, maybe like by 15 minutes. I know that's not a whole lot, but I think that it would have helped out the movie a little bit better if it was a bit slower in that first half. And the performances in this movie were mostly really good. And the only one that I wouldn't say bad, but he was just fine in it, Jason Clarke. There were some lines where I didn't really buy him as the character, and I'm just like, I don't really buy you as your character, and I kind of just see Jason Clarke. But most of the time, he was, at the very least, serviceable, and he wasn't super distracting. But everyone else is really good in it. Jessica Chastain, she's great in this movie. Joel Edgerton, even though he's not in it a lot, he's good, along with Chris Pratt. And those two actors don't really show up too much until like the last 45 minutes of the movie. I think you see them for like one or two scenes, and then they just disappear for the rest of the movie, and then they come back in the last 45 minutes of the movie. And they're very good. They're never distracting. And most of this movie is just our main character trying to figure out where Osama bin Laden is, and trying to crack the puzzle as to how to find him. And there's so many steps that our main character has to take, and She just starts out to like, this is a thing that she's been working on for like 8 years of her life, and the movie even shows off that, or sorry, shows off. The movie even tells you that she never like finished high school, and the only thing she's been doing all her life is just trying to hunt down Osama bin Laden and to complete that assignment. And she's dedicated like so much time to this, and she doesn't really have any friends, and the only people she gets attached to really are the people she works with. And I thought that was interesting. And the movie is very reminiscent to Zodiac now that I think about it. Although I like Zodiac a lot better than this movie. And that's not to say that this movie doesn't do anything well on its own, and it's well shot throughout, and the music, well, I don't think it's super memorable to me. I thought it was appropriately used, and I liked how in certain scenes that it was mixed in really quietly to like add just a little bit to the scene, and I thought it worked out really, really well when it did that. And it actually complemented the scene that it was in, and that's one thing that I really liked about the movie. And my only other issue with this movie really would be that in the last 30 minutes of this movie, there are some shots in this movie where you literally cannot see a thing because it is so dark. And it makes sense why it's darker from a logical perspective, but when you watch the movie, I couldn't see anything without turning my brightness up to all the way in because it was just so dark, and even then I could just barely make out what was in the image. And luckily that's only an issue that occurred in the last 30 minutes of the movie, but wow, I just could not see a thing. So I wouldn't recommend watching this movie during the daytime in a room where it's very bright. So if you decide to watch this movie, don't do that because it's going to ruin your experience once you get to the last 30 minutes. Make sure it's really dark in the room when you get to the last 30 minutes of the movie. And that's about all I have to say about Zero Dark 30. It's really, really good. Not as good as The Hurt Locker. I think The Hurt Locker is much better than this movie, but this is still a good movie, and I know some people who don't really like this movie all that much, and I could understand why, because it doesn't give you the experience that you're probably expecting from it if you look at the poster, or you just I don't know, hear certain things about it. You're expecting like a war movie or an action movie, and you watch the movie and there are elements of that, but the story is kind of shown from a different perspective. And it's just like Zodiac. That's all I'm going to say about it. And for that, it's really engaging, and I really enjoyed it. So definitely check this movie out once you get the chance, and I'm going to give Zero Dark 30 a 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of Zero Dark 30 and my social media links. They will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.